I have been pining away for a new development to Mortemia's The COVID Aftermath sessions, given the initial work, sort of the foundational fanfare piece with Federica Lana's talents. Federica Lana of Ulterion, if not familiar, she is an excellent Italian metal artist. I highly recommend engaging with her talent. She's exquisite. But that first initial piece, the Madonna cover for Frozen, was just so excellent in my opinion. But going off of my familiarity, my first entry point with Mortemia was the Pandemonium sessions, about 7 tracks in total, all of which I featured on this channel in terms of being first impressions. And that entry was just so damn strong creatively. As a symphonic metal guy, obviously up my alley, completely. But Mortemia, he's spoken of in certain regards as a visionary, and I think that label is deserved. Maybe some of you are not familiarized with Mortemia by name, or Morten Wieland. Mortemia is his solo work. He heralds from Sirenia as, I believe, one of the foundational members, and I've recently been engaging with Sirenia on this channel. They are exquisite as well within the symphonic metal scene. But Mortemia, to set a good basis again for first entries, Norwegian one-man Gothic symphonic metal artist, and he is incredibly talented. Again, I've consulted in total about 9 works on this channel, including one of his original pieces from the 2001 album Misere Mortem, the one I once was, and that was a great piece too. He's an exceptionally talented vocalist, and his musical constructions, I mean, I say vocalist, it's more of like in the presence of Mortemia, he provides a sufficient growl. I love the presence of his voice, but he's more so in charge of the music. But the whole model with the Pandemonium sessions and now the COVID Aftermath sessions has really impressed me, and it's a collaborative experience in general. He does the music, and in some part adds some vocal construction, from time to time, or contribution, and he'll bring on an established female talent from another group. And I get to say something with a song I don't often mention with Mortemia, because many of you know who previously engaged with my coverage of said work, I've utilized him in the collaborative learning space. And I've considered him integral as well to the evolution of music as a presence on this channel, which has been a long-time aspiration of mine. Music is very much a first passion, aside from other artistic ventures of what I routinely cover on this channel, and more like foundational presences. But music for me, since I began this channel, I've always wanted to feature it at a greater depth, given it's had such a personal relationship in my life. And Mortemia has just been so impressive in my opinion. I religiously listen to him like all the time. Re-listen to each piece. I couldn't tell you the number of listens I've given him. But the collaborative model for me, again, I've loved being able to impart, as I bring music to a grander focus here over the 2022 year, which I successfully manifested over 2023. That's only going to grow exponentially. I'm very happy with the vision of what's taking root now. I've utilized him in first introduction spaces with a lot of the talent he's introduced, and all the artists generally I've not known about previously other than Mortemia. I credit him a lot in regards to many of the groups I've consulted. For example, Metalite, Ad Infinitum, Chaos Magic, or Somber Wind. Those were all the first introduction points, and many more are coming as well for groups I have not yet spotlighted from other artists that have been featured in previous coverage with him. I use him as the engagement, the first engagement, to learn about the artist and to observe their talents, at least in a limited window, but then explore later, right? I like that networking among a lot of European metal groups. And again, many of you know, I just absolutely love this music scene, in particular Europe. If you've never gone into it, their European metal specifically is a gold mine of talent. But again, I don't often get to say that I know the talent going in. It's usually on first impressions. Not always. In fact, the track that launched me into a familiarity with Mortemia was Zola Kok of Blackbriar, who I've been a big fan of. Their Dutch symphonic gothic metal, highly recommend their work. Zora's voice is exquisite, and the band is exceptionally talented, but Zora's vocals are just incredible. They're transcendent. She's what brought me in, because she did a collab with him for the Roykstop cover, What Else Is There, for the Pandemonium sessions. And we have a similar model here. Funny enough, a Blackbriar collaboration. And somebody I've also recognized previously on this channel, and seldom presence in part because I understand the band is no longer together, which is sad, but they've got so many good pieces. Snow White Blood, remember them? They did the Panic at the Disco cover for Emperor's New Clothes, and that's the track I featured, and it was just such a great listen. But Snow White Blood as a group is led by Ulli Perhonen, who I've been a big fan of since I first heard her work on the Blackbriar collaboration of Snow White and Rose Red. And I've quickly developed a love for operatic metal, in large part because of Ulli. And I've expanded in names since. For example, Simone Simons, or something, I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce the last name yet, of Epica. I recently looked at her work through the Apocalyptica collaboration of Rise Again, and also as well with Sirenia, Emmanuel Zoltan. I love her voice. Operatic metal is quickly becoming a bit of a favorite with me, and Ulli Perhonen was the first engagement for that. So it's really surreal for me to be sitting back looking at somebody that I've admired for a long time, in large part because of Snow White Blood, given I'm still working my way through a lot of their other tracks, and I would recommend, if you've not heard them before, must-hears. I'm picking a good mix of their albums here. Lullaby for the Undead, Never Ending Waltz, You Belong to Me, that one specifically you need to listen to. It's just such an exquisite piece. I love that song. The construction to it is amazing, and I'm still confounded by just how marvelous it is. I'm so happy to be able to cover Ulli Perhonen again. You know, I said, it was funny because I've been following Mortemia for a while, trying to figure out, like, is he going to announce who the star is? Like, when's the next collaboration coming out? And he teased it, and so in the back of my mind, I'm guessing, because he had said, like, I'm going to announce it in a couple days. I'm like, okay, who's it going to be? Could it be, I don't know, there's many names you could pick. Sharon Donato? I would love a collaboration of her. That would be great. Like, make that a reality, please. But I'm like, who could it be? I didn't think about Ulli Perhonen, and I'm so happy with it. Ulli, with her operatic side and tapping into the symphonic direction of what Mortemia has established for himself as an artist, she's going to be an excellent fit. It's going to be seamless, I can imagine. I'm interested to see what tone this takes. I mean, Mortemia kind of mixes around his sound from time to time. It might go more in the ballad direction. It might be a more agitated, rough, heavy metal type song with that type of atmosphere to it. I don't exactly know what to expect. Again, it's been a good helping of tracks. I've gotten an understanding of his work and his capabilities as an artist. And again, like I said, visionary, I highly apply that label to him. I truly believe he deserves it. And Ulli, longtime favorite of mine. I can't wait to spotlight her again and perhaps make you a fan. I'm sure many of you who are consulting this, maybe some of you know Snow White Blood and you know Ulli Perhonen perhaps from the Blackbriar collaboration, and maybe you know Mortemia, or maybe some of these names are unfamiliarized to you. In part, again, I love to be able to feature talent that is a first introduction, if at all possible, for listeners who you might come to this channel for another group I've spotlighted, but I'm hoping in part to network advantageous talents towards you. If you're somebody that likes to go artist shop and you like exploring, to the same extent perhaps that I do, I want to provide those routes for you if I can to explore artists that you will come to love. And trust me, you will love Ulli. I've not heard this track yet. And by the way, she's not the only presence here, because as well, Nils Courbaron of Sirenia, I believe, is one of the guitarists. And again, I'm still in early introduction to Sirenia's work, but he's also working on behalf of this track. So we have two collaborative artists. Pretty interesting. So he's going to add, I'm sure, a unique dimension as well to Mortemia's work. I just can't wait to hear both of these presences as well as Mortemia. This track, I'm so happy with it, but Ulli specifically, I can't wait to return to her talents again. I'm going to go ahead and cue up the video, and we have a lyric video in this case to go along with the song. So normally, if you're used to the way I format my coverage, I do provide the lyrics for you to suit listener taste, and so you don't have to necessarily go and pull up another tab if you want to read along with the song. That's provided here. Can't wait to engage with this. I'm sure the video will be great too. Let's watch it together. Let's get an introduction, perhaps for you, a first-time listen to Ulli Perhonen. You might not be into opera. I know that's kind of a selective genre preference among people. It's grown with me over time, trust me, and a lot of that credit is due to Ulli. I think you'll come to like it, though, through her. Hear it? Ah. And nice echo effect, too. Oh, I like that scrapbook interface. It's kind of like a scrapbook to me. That growing energy too. Again, it's sort of a mix in genre and tone feeling of what Mortemia's played with. I love Ulli. The background layering, perfect. Ah, her range. She really is a great fit with this piece. I'm so glad he gave this one to her. Oh, I love it. This break again, that symphonic edge just immediately brings me in. I'm a big orchestral guy, so I'm immediately game when I hear it. And with Mortemia, I always get a strong presence. And the structuring too, again, the mounting going in, I love the mapping. It's a great performance visualizer too. Again, I love the way this is formatted. It's so endearing. The emotional sentimentality is a connection of the song. Seamless connection. Everything is so tight. Top favorite already. Every song from Mortemia that I've consulted has been, but this one, triumphant. And to fit with the tone of this album too, again being the COVID aftermath sessions, we have a much more pleasant, naturalistic, scenic video presentation. I mean, Pandemic Pandemonium Sessions was too, but it was portrayed more ominously. This is so endearing and hopeful. Everything, like I said, tight. Great riff break too. Wonderful placement. The inflections here, I just love it. The chorus construction is just so beautiful. And that outro line, I know it's coming. It's everything. Oh, wow. That's one of the best outro effects I've heard on one of his pieces. I loved that. Her voice just lingers and wavers. It's isolated. Told you, Ulli is like... She's what got me into operatic metal. I love listening to it now. And you know, I think back to when I was a kid and I'm like, I think back and like, I'd probably be laughing at myself right now. I'd be like, you're gonna like opera someday? In the metal scene? Oh, I do. Just this song, again, chills with it. Oh, man, the scopes are... It's always fun with Mortemia. You know, just it's always an experience with him. I love these pieces so much. I love symphonic metal, and he is, I would say, one of the more dominant presences for me in favorability of at least what I've accustomed to so far on this channel. And I've introduced myself to a good range, but I've got a mounting list of recommendations from many of you who have consulted my music coverage, and it's been wonderful too to have those names. Again, like I said, the networking, but it's a long list, so maybe I have other groups to get to in terms of the symphonic metal scene, but I've looked at so many at this point of this channel that I've come to really love, and Ulli has just amazed me in her talents, and again, the integration with the Snow White Blood involvement. Again, if you've not heard of them, they're really good. German, I think I forgot to specify, metal, symphonic metal. Highly recommend them, and again, You Belong to Me, must listen to that one. You have to. I said Ulli would be, at the time I found out about her announcement, instant reaction was she was going to be a perfect fit, and she is. I love this song. It's so structured to her. It's just beautiful. And the piece, the lyrical construction, I love those choruses. Because I'm going for the lyrics again. Like, stare into your vacant eyes. All that I can see is endless night, long forgotten light. Where was that end line? There's nothing there at all but an endless black hole. Sick at heart and soul. That line specifically. Oh. Just hearing her voice and the tone. Perfect on that. Again, like I said, Ulli has an incredible range to her voice. Many of the European talents I've consulted do. But with opera, man, I loved this piece so much. It's great to listen to. Like, everything with Mortemia is here. I feel like this is sort of, again, in that good middle ground territory. You might be, again, the metal scene has particular preferences among its listeners that are widely diversified. You might prefer softer songs, you might prefer harsher headbang stuff like me. That is a general, it's been a long time preference for me, at least on the more agitated side. I'm okay, though. Again, like I said, I keep an open door, and there's plenty of ballad-type songs or operatic masterpieces, I'm going to call it that I'm open to. This, I feel, in what I've considered thus far, again, in total about 9, now 10 pieces from Mortemia, this is a good middle ground in between the two fields. Sort of like maybe along the lines of, I forget the artist's name that collaborated with him. Here, I'll reference it properly, from the Pandemic Pandemonium sessions, off of Amaja Shine, and I believe of Forever Still, I think it's the name of the group. I've not looked at them yet, I will in time, but Here Comes Winter. That one had, softer vocals on behalf of her, and then Mortemia came in with his signature growl, The Dreams, I love that. And you could hear him, I think, subtly in the background as a compliment to Ulli, very much reduced in pitch and volume, but still just beautiful. Letting Ulli's vocal shine. Again, like I told you, she is so exquisite as an artist. I love listening to her. And I know people in my life, I recommend names to people all the time. And I've said in many occasions, in different music I've consulted, of course, in various places, that my music tastes do isolate me quite a bit. Metal generally, I think, does. I think it's kind of treated these days in society like it's not pop music. It's not necessarily seen as mainstream, like Hollywood fare. And in my circles, that tends to be, I mean, not always, but sort of along those lines in genre preference, that tends to be what a lot of people gravitate to. Me, I've always been very isolated in my tastes and favorability, and I've always gravitated towards the alternative, in particular because I just find more dominant talents in that scene. Not to disrespect, exceptions I've made to other artists in the past that fit in the mainstream sphere. There are a couple. But I'm just not as much a mainstream guy. I like, my music tastes do make me a bit of an anomaly, but I consider that in a positive regard, because I come across talents like Ulli and Mortemia, and not to override his contributions as well, Nils Courbaron from against Sirenia, and that riff placement too, highly effective. Great structure, like I said, to the piece overall in every place. It's such a tight package, and the visualizer, again, the tone of this album is much more happy and sentimental and peaceful, because we've now hit the COVID aftermath stages, right? Get it? It's very on point. But the way that he depicts Ulli, he's never done that before, like a picture frame pattern. And I loved it. Usually it'll be where Nils Courbaron is. I hope I'm pronouncing his last name correctly, and I apologize if I'm not. But it'll usually be if they're going to feature, an artist, and let's say, for example, in the past, Linda Tony Gran or Erika Olsen, a respective attribution from Anima Vale or formerly Fall of a Cipher and Metalite. With each artist, they're usually the ones in Nils' position. But here, Ulli gets to be in a different place. And I love this scrapbook interface. It's so cool. I'm like, it just adds this touching layer to the piece where I'm like, oh, it's just so endearing. It connects with you. It feels very classic, by the way, again, with its symphonic drive, Ulli's operatic style. Everything with this piece just works for me. It is it's another example of Mortemia's strength, and I've said it many times, he's a visionary. I cannot credit him enough in that regard. I truly believe he is. And Ulli, what a collaboration. Exquisite. I had hoped it would be. I knew it would be with her, and that was even better than I thought it was going to be. This piece, immediate re-listen on several occasions, I'm sure. And it's going to sound great when I put her on in the car. And I have with Mortemia. His symphonic pieces have such a great atmosphere in my studio. My stereo. This piece is going to shine. Easily. I loved it. And I hope you did too, for those of you who are perhaps longtime Mortemia fans or Morten Wieland fans to credit, as well as Sirenia connection. And, you know, to that regard as well, Nils Courbaron. And I hope for many of you this is going to be an introduction. It's been, I think, on occasion for some of you. I can't say for sure. I've consulted so much music at this point that some people have mentioned you in comment sections, and I love having back and forths with many of you. Some people have come to you, different artists, being like, I don't know that group, and now I want to go check them out. Again, that's my goal in part. If I can introduce you to talents that deserve said attention, like Mortemia does, like Sirenia does, like Ulli Perhonen does, and if anybody in my social circle, you know who you are, people I know personally. I remember, I take note of all those blank stares I get when I reference all these names, and you're like, who? I am giving you a doorway of access. You should go listen to these groups. Please take it from me, and take it from the credit of a song. You will love Mortemia. I'm sure you'll love Sirenia, and you will love Ulli Perhonen from Snow White Blood. Again, go listen to that group. I cannot recommend their music enough. Even if, again, they've, I believe they've broken up or they disbanded, I think. There was an announcement. They've at least stopped producing new music, but their pieces are just so good. Again, You Belong to Me, must hear. But I'd love to hear again from whatever perspective you come from. If you wish to disclose your perspective down below. Are you familiarized with any of these artists and established name talents to you, or any of these first introductions? And what did you think of the piece? And does this compel you to look deeper if maybe all of these names are fresh to you? I've been excited for this piece for a long time. Again, not even knowing about it, just being like, I want to hear more from Mortemia off of that Federica Lana collab and everything I've heard, you know, previous to that. The COVID Aftermath sessions thus far is evolving beautifully. I love this piece. It's one of the best features from him I think I've heard. It's got everything. It's got everything. It is a tight, well-encompassing Mortemia mix. And with Ulli, I said in the beginning, perfect fit. She nails it here. I love this song so freaking much. Thank you so much for watching this video. Before you bounce, feel free to drop a like and comment, subscribe to this channel with a ding on the bell, and share this video with your friends. And consider checking out the description here. There you'll find links to my other channels, as well as addresses to my other social media accounts and ways you can help support my work if you feel so inclined. May God bless you, and looking forward to when our paths cross again.